Thank you, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, uh, our post-summit advocacy town hall. I very much appreciate everyone's participation. I am Ali Manson, the Vice President of Government Relations and Advocacy with Zero. I am joined today by Dylan Morse, the Vice President of Cornerstone Government Affairs. For those who are expecting Susan Sweat, I'm sorry for the disappointment, but I know Dylan is wonderful, and I'm glad he can be with us today. We're going to give everyone a quick update on what has been going on in DC since we all saw one another in late February. And if you weren't with us in February, we're very glad you're here. You are more than welcome to join us. So please, I'm going to talk about how we were together, but hopefully we've got some newcomers here today too. So we will discuss what's happened, catch everyone up on what happened with our asks, and then what you can do going forward, right? Because I think, as we said, in the past, the best advocates are both persistent and consistent. So we are here to give y'all more opportunities, more ways to keep engaging and keep moving us towards the end of prostate cancer. So I'm going to hand it over to Dylan to tell us a little bit about what's happening in DC.
Thanks, Ali, and I will do my best Susan Sweat impression. But she's the pro. So I just wanted to give you guys some high-level context for what people are paying attention to, what's kind of driving the politics of the day, and how that ultimately impacts, what we care about for Zero. So if you're watching the news, you're hearing all kinds of stuff about the debt limit. It's the essentially the cap that the U.S. Treasury is not allowed to go over. We are expecting to hit that in early June through maybe sometime early July. Right now it's $31.4 trillion. And Congress needs to either raise or suspend that in order to let the U.S. government pay its bills. It's money that we've already spent, and the risk of default is something that nobody wants to see happen. So Republicans in Congress are hoping to use the debt limit negotiations to secure some spending cuts. What those look like are very to be determined. Yesterday, the House passed the first kind of cut at a Republican debt limit package. What it does is sets spending at fiscal year 2022 levels, caps increases over the next 5 years at 1%, and would add work requirements to some social programs, do some kind of environmental permitting reform stuff. That bill is dead on arrival in the Senate, but it does kind of really kick off negotiations in earnest. What it also does is puts everyone on record on those spending reductions, which is going to complicate the appropriations process. So that's going to play out over the next month and a half or so, and really take all the oxygen out of the room. Meanwhile, the appropriations committees are moving ahead with their process to get the actual bills written, but nothing can really move until they've unstuck the debt limit in some way. On the health care, as far as health policy is concerned, the committees of jurisdiction in the House and the Senate are focused at the moment on reform for pharmacy benefit managers. So those are the folks that that are hired by insurance companies, by Medicare, by large employers to negotiate their prescription drug benefits. They're the go-betweens between drug companies, pharmacies, insurers, that sort of thing. What they're hoping to do is increase competition, lower prescription drug prices and improve pharmacy access for patients. They are going through that committee process now, kind of teeing that up probably for a year-end package. There's also going to be a big focus on price transparency for prescription drugs, also for hospital billing, and things like that. So that's kind of the context that we're working within, and we can get more into the weeds on the appropriations process and how that's going to play out in a bit. But yeah, so I don't know, Ali, did you want to take it from there, or?
Yeah, and actually, I want to pause a second. John Gillis, it looks like you've got a question. I'm going to allow you to talk if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question. Okay, we'll give you a minute, John. Feel free to pipe back up if you're interested. Just remember that you can use the chat function, the Q&A function, and you can raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question out loud. We can certainly allow that. And thanks, Dylan. I think that's all really useful because it is the context in which our policy priorities are or are not advancing, right? So it is kind of the world in which we're operating. And if everyone remembers, we had 4 policy priorities back at the summit. We had the Prostate Cancer Research Program, we had the CDC, we had the PSA Screening for Him Act, and we had the PC Care Act. For the Prostate Cancer Research Program, hopefully everyone on here can shout out with me 120 million. I don't know why I thought I could do that with my fingers. I can't. $120 million. And we were showing the support we had for that program by asking folks to sign a Dear Colleague letter, right? That is a letter that members send to the members on the committee, right? Send to their colleagues showing their support. In the House, that letter specifically asked for an increase for the Prostate Cancer Research Program to $120 million. And I'm happy to say that we had 131 members sign that letter. It's probably not the very biggest letter the Appropriations Committee gets, but it's a good sized letter. We're really proud of where that ended. And we know that because we're in the first year of a Congress, last year's letter in 2022, of the people who signed that letter, 30 of them didn't come back to DC this year for one reason or another, right? Retirement, losing their election, what have you. So, to know that we're in the first year of a Congress, we've got room to grow as we build those relationships and folks get to know us a little bit better. And I have every expectation we'll be even higher next year. In the Senate, we had 22 members sign that letter. And Dylan might actually know these numbers off the top of his head, but out of 100 senators, how many are on the Appropriations Committee and therefore don't sign the letter? And then, how many of those who are left signed our letter? 22 is a really good, strong letter in the Senate. So we feel we're in a pretty good position going into the appropriations season. The committees have stopped taking member requests, right? They've already had to submit everything, which means that they've already heard from everyone, right? They've heard from the folks supporting the Vision Research Program. They've heard from the folks supporting the Department of Education, supporting what have you. They've gotten those requests, including our very strong requests for the PCRP support. We are now going to move into meetings done by myself and Susan and Dylan and Hal on behalf of the community with some of the committee staff and other folks. But we've got time left now in the appropriations process, right? Hypothetically, the new fiscal year will start October 1st, another little less than 6 months from now, hypothetically. And we're going to keep working through that. Dylan's going to give us some context on what comes next for approps in a second. I just want to address the fact that the CDC asked, we didn't have anything as visual, right? For the Prostate Cancer Research Program, right now in the spring, we do the Dear Colleague letter. We see how many people actually support it. For the CDC, we ask members to show their support for the CDC's prostate cancer activities in their individual communications with the committee office. So it's not in a public way that we get to see and kind of tally and know how many people supported. So we will find out as time goes on what kind of support the CDC had. But again, we do feel like we had strong support, certainly in our summit meetings and through meetings we'll continue to have with the committee staff. But Dylan, what comes next for appropriations? We've got all the member requests are in. Now what?
Sure. And I would add to there are members that we know that were not on the appropriations committee that supported our ask in the Senate. They just have office policies of not signing on to public letters, but we know that they included our CDMRP ask in their private letter. So the support is even better than it looks on paper, even though it looks really good on paper. So as far as what comes next for approps, I mentioned the debt limit fight, and that is going to weigh in very heavily. So especially in the House of Representatives, where there's a new Republican majority, in order to get elected Speaker, Kevin McCarthy agreed to spending policy that would set the top line at fiscal year 2022 levels. That's the same position they've taken in the debt limit negotiations. It's not official yet, but it's highly likely that that's the same position that they're going to take in the House appropriations process. They're also expected to, as part of, so that's a steep cut from the baseline from what we would expect. As part of that, there's also an expectation that they will hold the Department of Defense and the defense budget overall harmless, which is good because our CDMRP request, or the prostate cancer research program, is in the defense budget. What that also means is there are going to be really, really difficult cuts for non-defense items, which would include every other agency. So CDC is one, CDC, but also the Department of Agriculture and Energy and what have you. So it's going to make everything else much more difficult in the House. So in the Senate, they are taking a more deliberate approach. There's a new chairman, or new chairwoman, a new ranking member. They are trying really hard to work in a bipartisan fashion to agree to a top line that will be higher than the House. They tend to do things a little slower. So if they are able to come to an agreement in the Senate and hold markups and get bills passed, we will likely be in a better position for the CDC request over in the Senate side. Historically, the prostate cancer research program dollar figure has been whatever the House marks to, the Senate agrees to. So as long as we can, stay in good position there, we should be set when it does come time to negotiate that with the Senate. As far as timing is concerned, the House committees are hoping to mark their bills up out of committees, so we would see text, know where we stand, have all the numbers sometime in May, and then get them off the floor, vote them through the House, and move them over to the Senate in June or July. That's probably the most optimistic scenario. The non-controversial bills are the ones that will go first. Defense is usually one of those, which is another good thing for PCRP. Labor, Health, and Human Services is no longer non-controversial, so that one could get held up and not make it to the floor. The Senate over the last few years has either marked up much later, so in July, September, or not marked their bills up at all and posted them online, and then we negotiate kind of a year-end package. So all that is to say, and the fiscal year technically ends at the end of September, but the last time we got approps done on time and passed appropriations bills through regular order was in the maybe early 2000s.
But we talk about it every year,
We
right?
do, yes, but you need to go through the process and be there early and on time, and make sure that you want to be in the base text. You don't want to be fighting to get in later when we're negotiating a year-end omnibus.
And I think, what, in the last decade, how many times have you heard committee say, or committee, let's say the chair and ranker say, this year we're going to go all the way through the process. It's going to be regular order this year.
Every year.
Right?
Every
and how
year.
many times has it happened?
Zero times.
Right?
Yes.
It's fun. It's a fun game.
Yep.
All right. So that means, of course, that we actually don't have as much ability to predict where this process is going to go and on what timeline as we'd like to think. Right? We do everything we can. We make sure that we show member support by sending letters. We show the community support by having additional meetings. We send action alert emails, right? Y'all all click through those emails that you receive saying, please, Senator so-and-so, support the prostate cancer research program. We want to use all the opportunities and all the levers we have at our disposal so that when the process moves, right, in kind of a herky-jerky way, we're there, we're ready, and we've done the things we need to hopefully capitalize on it.
Yep.
All right, so appropriations, though, were not our only ask. We also had the Prostate-Specific Antigen Screening for High-Risk Men Act, the PSA for Him Act. And as many of you, I'm sure, remember, we did not have that bill introduced at the time of the Senate. It was going to be any day now, my favorite phrase. As it turns out, that bill was introduced. It was introduced as H.R. 1826 by Congressman Larry Bucshon, a physician from Indiana who we knew would be on the bill. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, a Democrat from New York, who is new to the bill. And then with the two original co-sponsors, Dr. Neil Dunn, a urologist from Florida, and Representative Troy Carter from Louisiana. So we'd feel actually pretty good. That foursome is pretty strong. Those two additional original co-sponsors came on because they're really passionate about the issue. So we get the chance to capitalize on, Neil Dunn, who has been a long time prostate cancer supporter, but Troy Carter is kind of new to our conversation, and his enthusiasm for the bill was, I think, promising for us. So that bill was introduced. We are planning, and I'll mention this again later, but we are planning for a virtual Hill Day in June to show additional support and to keep pushing for co-sponsors on that bill now that it's actually been introduced. Anyone is welcome to send us an email, express your interest for that one. But we're also looking at other ways, some additional educational opportunities in Congress to make sure that we are talking over and over and over about the higher risk of prostate cancer for Black men, men with a family history, men with a genetic predisposition to prostate cancer, and that we are talking about how removing this one barrier doesn't solve everything, but it's an important step towards moving towards more equitable access to care and, in time, more equitable outcomes. So tremendously important. And we're sorry it wasn't introduced before the summit, because that would have been nice, would have saved me some lost sleep. But the bill is there now, and we are pushing for co-sponsorship, and we'll have ways for you to help. We also had the PC Care Act. I believe we went to the Hill on Tuesday, February 27th. On Wednesday, February 28th, that bill was introduced as HR 1315. That's the bill that creates a federal coordinating committee for prostate cancer research. So it was led by Congressman Greg Murphy, another urologist from North Carolina. And it is, in our minds, a pretty straightforward bill, right? It's one that is kind of basic good government to make sure that we're being as efficient and effective as possible with research dollars for prostate cancer. But Dylan, I wanted to ask you, kind of knowing that we've got a debt limit happening, knowing that I actually think the PBM staff at the health committee is pretty interesting, knowing we've got all these other things happening, and the president just announced his reelection campaign, right? There's a lot happening in that context. What does it mean for the 118th Congress? Knowing that, of course, I want to say, Hal gave me the statistic the other day that out of the 10,000 bills introduced in the 117th Congress, 300 and some passed. So tell us, Dylan, better or worse? Same as ever?
Well, it depends on what your issue is, right? And it depends on how good your advocates are. Thankfully, we have a super strong bipartisan group leading our efforts. I will say anything that does get done is going to be bundled together in probably large kind of year-end or other packages that are up against some sort of a deadline that give us a legislative vehicle. But it's divided government. So the things that do get passed are going to have to get passed on a bipartisan basis. 2024 politics are gonna start creeping up on us, especially as we get to at the end of this year, early next year. You're already into presidential primary season, and members are going to start thinking about their own races. So all that makes things more difficult to get done. But I think that for our issues, we're well positioned, and y'all do a great job. So,
and I think that's it. Congress is like me, right? They are deadline motivated. They've got something they have to do, pass a debt limit, fund the federal government, right? They've got something they have to do. They're more likely to get it done.
Yep. There are also going to be some Medicare provisions that expire at the end of the year that are going to need to be addressed. So that could, that is an opening to do other sorts of healthcare policy. We're going to have plenty of opportunity. Just need to make sure that we're in the right place and have all our ducks in a row when something does, when the train does leave the station. You just need to make sure you're on it.
I'm going to remind everybody, this is where we need you to be persistent and consistent, right? Keep reaching out, keep saying things, keep sharing your stories and making sure that you're getting the message to your members.
And Ali, you mentioned earlier all the other groups, right, that come to town and that make the same asks and that the Hill staff are meeting with. They have a priority list, and you need to make sure that you stay right up near the top. So it's super important that they continue to hear from you guys, not just at the summit, but throughout the year. Back home in district, all those good things, they all really make a difference.
And you couldn't have set me up better for the next thing I wanted to mention. So I've got a quick list here, but we have a tool. We call it the Zero Action Center. It's on our website. You also receive emails from it, and it lets you just click through. It's a couple of clicks. It takes probably less than 30 seconds if you don't read everything, a little longer if you do read it. You can customize it to add more about your story. You can leave it exactly as we pre-prepared it. And it just lets you quickly and easily send messages to your members of Congress talking about what's important to you, right? Asking for their support for the policy priorities, for the bills, and for appropriations. So I'm going to ask everyone, please, 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 if you see an email from me, just click a couple of times. It won't take long, and it does. It makes a huge difference. And I think if you click through a certain number per year, I think you get special holiday cards from Hal and I for those top most active advocates. I heard rumors about a box of cookies going out. That might have just been a rumor, but know that the more you do, it's incredibly productive, and you'll get our personal gratitude for helping to make our jobs a little easier. Every number on this list is number one, so they must all be equally important. But if you go ahead and text right now, 0 to 52886, it'll also sign you up for text alerts. You might like those, you might not. You are free to just stick to email if you prefer. But if you're someone who is running around all day and you would rather get your opportunity to tell your prostate cancer story via your cell phone, it's the same idea. It'll sign you up, that text comes through. It's quick, it's easy, it's under 30 seconds. As I mentioned, we are going to do virtual Hill meetings on June 9th, and that'll be in support of the PSA for Him Act. We will be, well, to be honest, we're going to figure out as it gets a little closer exactly which members we're targeting. So it's a limited number of folks who can participate, but if you are interested, please send an email to advocacy@zerocancer.org, at which point Hal will probably redirect you to a sign-up link that I'm sure he's created. It's just going to be a couple of meetings. I would say at the very most, you would have 3 30-minute virtual meetings. Most people probably only have one. So it should be very easy and not a whole lot of your time. But again, it's a chance to either say, hey, you met me back in February. I'm glad to be back. The bill was introduced. I'd love to have your sponsorship. Or, I've never done this before, but I am a constituent in your district. I am caring for a loved one with prostate cancer, and this is tremendously important to me because, it could have made a difference in my loved one's care, right? There's a lot of different reasons, but you get a chance to tell your story, and that is what matters most, right? We can give them all the statistics. It's 1 in 8 men. Every 15 minutes, someone dies of prostate cancer. Every 2 minutes, a man is diagnosed with prostate cancer. I can say all those all day long, and it is not nearly as impactful as the story that every one of you can tell about yourself or the person you love who actually struggled through or didn't their journey with prostate cancer. So please send an email to advocacy@zerocancer.org. We would love to have you. Do that by the end of May. Just do it now. Now's a great time to send me an email. We're also going to give you the opportunity in August, right? We know that DC is a disgusting, swampy place in the summer. So traditionally, Congress has taken a long recess during the month of August. They spend time in their districts at home, and that's a great opportunity for you to meet with them then, right? In fact, you're probably more likely to meet with your member when they're actually at home in your backyard than if you come to DC. So that's a great way to do it. We will have a webinar at the very end of July in order to equip you for those meetings, help you figure out how to set them up, what to say, what to ask for, give you some materials, everything you need to be prepared to go into meetings in August, and just keep up the drumbeat. Finally, the 2024 Zero Prostate Cancer Summit is already being planned. It feels like just yesterday we were together at the Gaylord, but we are already starting to put things together for 2024. So please save the date for February 25th to 27th of 2024. We'll be at the Westin Old Town in Alexandria, Virginia. And, I think one of the things that we want to be thinking more and more about each year is that, it's a big trip to come to DC. And sometimes it's your first time, sometimes it's your 10th time. I love when it's the 10th time. And there are lots of different ways to kind of figure out how to get here, how to get fundraising support, how to maximize the scholarship funding that we have available, all that fun stuff. And I want to roll a video here from champion Ted Healy, who I think is also on the call today, sharing a little bit about his trip to the summit this year.
My name is Ted Healy. I'm a champion for zero prostate cancer. Grateful to be here. I wanted to come to the summit this year in person just because I had been to the previous summits virtually, as well as I've been working with the amazing staff at Zero virtually for years as well, for the race walk, for other fundraising events, other fundraising activities. And I wanted to meet people in person. I saw an opportunity through the fundraising option to have other people pay my way. So I came up with this concept of #SendTedToDC. I use the fundraising tool that Zero has on Facebook, as well as reaching out to my own friends. And additionally, my wife is an artist. Some of her work is here. She has I guess you would call it a blog or an email that she's been sending out to her clients for, 20 years now. And we actually included a thing about Send Ted to DC with a link to the fundraising link on Zero. And it just happened. It happened so much faster than I had anticipated. Well, first my reaction was like, no one's gonna send Ted to DC. I guess I'll try. It was scary. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, rejection is not an easy thing. But I figured, well, let me ask. Let's just try. I mean, what have I got to lose? And the results I got back was just it just touched my heart, how people reacted to it and responded to it. I was able to raise for the summit more than what was required to pay to go. it's just been very gratifying and humbling and just it's been quite the experience of the people reaching out. Not a handout, but a hand up is what has been my experience. It was such a in so many ways such a great experience. I've advocated before, but I've never advocated to the level, congressmen, senators, Ali and her crew, how I cannot tell you what a remarkable job they've done. I mean, to be able to reach out to every congressman and senator, for all the people that attended from all over the country, to be able to set it up so that we could, in a certain period of a day, have a schedule to meet with the senators, congressmen all over Washington, D.C. It's a huge area. And I went with another gentleman, Marty, from Seattle, because we were the Pacific Northwest contingent, the two of us. And we were able to just navigate the hallways of DC. It was a remarkable experience. And the people, everyone saw us with our shirts. Everyone saw us with our, and Leonard with his walnut. The walnuts that we were able to leave behind with the legislative aides to kind of remind them continuously about prostate cancer and keep an eye out for anything related to prostate cancer. It was a very great device. So my hat's off to Leonard for what he did. So again, I look forward to going next year, to meeting again firsthand in face-to-face, my fellow champions, my fellow prostate cancer survivors, their families, their caregivers, the staff at Zero. It's given me such a charge to continue on. It was an experience that I will never forget, and I look forward to going through it and going down to DC and meeting my friends and fellow survivors and family members, and going with Ali and her crew to the Hill to ask for money that is desperately needed for prostate cancer research. So yes, I'm jacked about going. I really am looking forward to it.
I'm going to repeat the dates here for Paul Neinfeld. We are going to be back at the Westin Old Town in Alexandria, Virginia, February 25th, 27th, 2024. So there is your reminder of those dates. And the summit website, if you go to zerocancer.org/summit, registration's not open yet, nothing like that. That's a bridge farther than we're ready for, but you can, at least there's a save the date that has the dates and the location, so you can start planning. I want to say thank you all very much for joining us today. I'm actually really impressed that we're ending with the same number of people we started with. So y'all stuck around. I'm impressed. And please go ahead, visit zerocancer.org/advocacy. You can always kind of track down some of the information, certainly the Action Center, but as well as information about the summit and other opportunities there. Make sure you've watched for my emails, and we will talk to you very, very soon. Thank you all very much.